Good morning, good morning. Well, good afternoon. Good evening, actually, is what I should be saying. It's Sunday, March 28th, and this video is going to be on the events that nobody's talking about, like the 10 Americans who were recently just killed by a Muslim. I know in my last YouTube live video in relation to the issues going on with the Democrats, Biden, and what's going on at the Mexican border, I mentioned about that. I guess we could say, like the Democrats do, we'll just say anonymous sources had informed me, of which I shared with everybody, that there was a catch and release going on at the border. And what they were doing was they were taking information down on people and then releasing them. And this is coming from anonymous sources, protected, I guess you could say, like, you know, the Democrats had with their, whistleblowers, right? Anonymous sources, so I can't say who they are. But those anonymous sources, it says that they know that after they released like hundreds of illegals who came in, picture identification of more than several of them have been realized that they had captured non-knowingly and released unknowingly known and declared and established Islamic terrorists who were a threat to the United States and the American people. Just saying. But what we're going to take a look at is, like what it says right here up above, you know, we're going to look at what's going on in relation to Joe Biden and what's taken place with I'm just trying to get things in order here. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to go ahead and jump into this. So we have the White House confirms Biden will sign gun control executive order. This comes on the heels of after an Islamic Muslim just recently shot and killed 10 people. Though when you read the articles that they talk about the gunman, this, that, they don't want to mention that he was a Muslim. We're back to the Obama era, you know, where we don't talk about that the terrorist attacks are Muslims. You know, where it's workplace violence again, or just a mentally ill. That's what a lot of the articles are saying now. And like this guy's Muslim brother is trying to state that, you know, that he was mentally ill. And Biden and the Democrats are again on their tyrant about, you know, gun regulation and gun laws, as if these gun laws even work. Of which, as we progress forward in this, we're gonna look at some of the facts, and then we're gonna really break down where the issues lie. And it's funny that when we break this all down and we look at the facts, you know what? It's the Democrats. It's the Democrats. They're the ones who are the fault for all the issues we're facing here in America at this time, and have been for the last 160 years. No joke. If you've been following my history videos, which if you know, I have my channel's right here. I have a lot of videos, and we've been doing a series of history. We're up to the 9th series, entering into the 1900s, which is an important part because this is where we actually start to look at the construction by the Democrats for their long, methodic plan to destroy America. It starts in the 1900s with Woodrow Wilson. What's the next history video I'll be doing will be leading into that era, and where it really gets interesting. And then we can see for the last 160 years how the Democrats have been destroying America, and how they have been and still are the primary cause of all social and domestic issues we're facing right here in the United States of America. But with that said, let's go back to looking at here. We know that the guy, Ahmad al-Alawi al-Issa, was identified by authorities Tuesday as the gunman who opened fire at a King Soper's grocery store in Colorado, killing 10 people, including a Boulder police officer. Most of the attention has been on the Boulder police officer. Orange juice, very good. And very little attention on the 10 people killed, or the fact that the guy who did the killing was an Islamic Muslim. And some people even right now are saying, well, because of the name, you can't say. I've taken the liberty over the last couple of days to look into this. Here he is right here being arrested. This is the guy who knows he's bleeding because he was shot in the leg during the event. This was a premeditated, planned out event, kind of similar to like what we've seen prior with Obama before Donald Trump. With the Christmas party event, you know, they'd gone out, they purchased their guns, they planned it, they knew exactly how they were going to go about it. This guy clearly had the goal and the intent that he was willing to kill for Islam, but he wasn't willing to die. for some reason, and more than likely what will happen with this guy is he'll be put into prison and he'll start recruiting terrorists in prison and converting that of the weak-minded, criminal-minded people in prison to that of Islam to be terrorists if ever they have a chance of being released. That's what they'll focus on, this guy right here. He's probably going into prison to be a recruiter and do the work of Islam and recruiting more terrorists while he's in there. And that's probably what will happen. But we know here, this right here says, Elisa's, whose family immigrated from Syria, may have been suffering from mental illness, according to his 34-year-old brother, Ali Alawa Alasaya. Okay, or if I'm saying that right. But as you can see, it's pretty clear these people were immigrants from Syria. They're Islamic Muslims, and like I say, not my opinion. The news is reporting through, and as well anonymous sources have made it clear that this guy is been tied to and associated with Islamic terrorism. Ekma Elisa's Facebook post about Islam, hacking, and needing a girlfriend. These were things. Now, the other thing that we see, like with Facebook, is very quick to remove these guys' profiles from their page, as if this somehow is going to do something better. I don't get it. I don't get how removing the information and the evidence for the public to be able to consider of what this guy was saying and doing on Facebook and who he was associated with, his friends and what have you, of which would be very important information to the American people that we could rely upon to be able to keep ourselves safe from those people as we can make connections ourselves and understand. Kind of like the guy, you know, if you know a guy in a community who becomes somebody that they find out has been killing people, okay, and yet he's been hanging with people in the community, okay, you don't want to block all the people in the community from knowing who he was hanging with because they could be potential killers too, right? Right? You know what I'm saying? And Facebook has that too, but no, they prefer to take it down and hide it from the public so that no one can see it. They claim they're doing this so they don't give this guy any credit or any recognition or what have you. You know, this reminds me of the lineup about how they try to protect the public and the victims in pedophilia cases with these sick, perverted, scumbag pedophiles. You know, how the same kind of scenario. In truth, what it is they're using a scenario that they're claiming for the better good of the public, when in fact they're doing it to cover up and hide the truth is what they're doing. And they're trying to aid and assist. To me, Facebook removing this guy's profile is aiding and assisting the enemies and helping those of associate enemies and terrorists of his to hide. That's what Facebook is doing. Facebook is erasing the evidence that would disclose to the American public who potential other terrorists might be that were associated with this guy that could have been discovered and found within his Facebook page. Like as if it had been left up and you see people slowly deleting their friendship from him, or certain people who are associated with him. You can go back through reference and see about things they've talked about, and you'd be able to put two and two together, we as the public. But of course, too, the authorities don't want us to be able to do that because they feel they're competent enough to be able to do an investigation. But we, the average, everyday American people, according to them, you know, the ones with the great Wizard of Oz brain, paper brains, that they're the professionals. They should be the ones trusted and left to this, like as if they've been doing such a good job. Really, cut me a goddamn break. People are goddamn failures and they know it. But anyway, so we move on here. My issue about this is with Joe Biden with the open borders. Now we got a Muslim who's now being covered up that's killed 10 Americans. But yet we look at the list now that grows. This list here starts in 1993 with the first World Trade Center bombing by the Islamic Muslims and goes all the way forward to date. Now there was upward of, I believe the number was 5,111 people that were of Americans, not people, Americans killed by Islamic Muslims right here on American home ground in Islamic Muslim terrorist attacks on Americans across the country. 5,111 people is now 5,021 people. It has gone up 10 more as a result of this guy, this Muslim, killing 10 Americans right here on American home ground. So, and this right here is a list of these that go all the way through, like I say, up till December. 2 shooting attacks at kosher grocery store in Jersey City, New Jersey. Most people aren't even aware of these things. A lot of them, because they're hidden as like workplace violence and things. I have other videos where I talked about this on how they try to mask the same as what they're doing here. This guy here is being portrayed off in his things outside of that, you know, the ones that I were specifically found where they hadn't yet. And these articles, mind you, like I'll put links to these, but you're going to find some of them have already been taken down because they mention Islam, they mention Muslims, and the Muslims are crying that, oh, they're in fear because, now the Muslims are going to be under threat and scrutiny by the American people because this guy's a Muslim and he just killed 10 people. Like as if we, the American people, really don't know what the hell's going on. Cut me a break. But anyway, so as we move forward here, we see the Southwest border crisis on pace for the highest levels in 20 years, Biden administration says. They're even admitting it. We see this right here on their own ABC News. They're admitting it. That the rise daily right now of illegal entries into America is up almost 100, over 150 people a day, and it's rising still. This article here was actually from March 16th. So, and believe me, by now it's up over 600, 700 per day on Biden's call to open borders, and now the catch and release. Word is getting back to Mexico about them catching and releasing them right into society, so they're really flooding the border right now. And the problem we have with that is, well, catch and release resumes in South Texas. Mayor says Biden orders reinstate policy. So you understand, I'm not making this stuff up. You won't find, this was from February 3rd, and it's very hard to find these articles because as quick as they're put up, they're hidden and they're buried and they're hot, so you don't hear nothing on the news about them talking about these things. And if they do it in a very quick conversation, boom, gone like the boom, 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 gone. And most of the time too, I've noticed if you look at, how to chart the Nielsen ratings, and what that is like, are the ratings, is when the highest population of people are watching the news. I noticed that when the news does run something that's correlating to what we're talking about right here, they'll do it when the rating levels are the minimal, the most lowest. That way they know the minimum amount of people are even watching. And they do it very quickly and, boom, right to commercial. Like it'll happen and then boom, right to commercial real quick. So it doesn't even be able to, enough to be able to give you anything to retain or for anybody to go, hey, what was that, and want to look into it. It's just done, and it's done intentionally that way. It's clear when you see it being done. But anyway, here's another frontline end loaders. I'm sorry, frontline end. This right here, yes, we've nabbed terrorists on the southern border. This is a story that was done January 10th in 2019. So this is going back a ways, I understand, but it's still relevant today because and I'm telling you right now, anonymous sources, I have heard from anonymous sources at the border, okay, that they have factual record knowledge and knowing knowledge of evidence of fact that they have been releasing, they've been capturing illegals, processing them, like photographing them, taking basic information, and then releasing them. After releasing many of these immigrants coming across the border, it is now estimated from anonymous sources that I've heard that there is known now nine that they had in their custody, 9 so far that they had in their custody have been identified as known ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and are Hamas-related terrorists, Islamic Muslim terrorists, who had entered illegally through the Mexican border, had been captured by the authorities and processed with that of other Mexican immigrants, but by photograph identification, after releasing them into the American public, they realized that these men were either ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or Hamas-related, known and declared Islamic Muslim terrorists, who definitely didn't come here looking for a job, didn't come here for a better life. They came here to kill Americans, and that's what their intent is, and that's what they're probably going to do. More than likely, the issue we just seen, like we were just talking about right here, with the guy who just killed the 10 people in the grocery store, this could be the start of with those 8 coming in now, getting with the cells and going ahead to initiate again the terrorist attacks on Americans right here in America. We're back to that thing again. And in my opinion, Biden and Harris, for every murder that happens, being he is responsible for what's taking place at the border and what we see going on right now with the disgraceful acts of these Democrats and what they're doing, these treasonous traitors within, it's pretty clear these people don't care about the American people. They have no regard for the American general safety and welfare of the American people, because what is happening right now is unprecedented in this country. It's just disgraceful. But by the end of this video, we're going to see who exactly is responsible for it by the evidence of facts that that make it very clear. But in my opinion, I think Harris, Biden, and anybody involved in the Democratic administration who is a part of allowing this to happen with the deterioration of what we see in the decay at the southern border, every murder that takes place right now on an American, those within the Democratic administration who are behind the process of allowing these Muslims into our country or allowing these open borders in Mexico should be charged with the murders. They're guilty for the murders. They're aiding and assisting the enemies of the American people, and they're aiding and assisting terrorists to be able to commit terrorist acts on the American people right here in our own home country. And this is undeniable. It's known by the evidence of what I'm showing you right now. But as we look right here, we see, because I'm going to read this, Customs and Border Protection Agency has confirmed to Congress today that 4 people arrested at the southern border since October 1 matched names on the FBI's terrorist screening database. A congressional aide briefed on the correspondence told Axios. So understand, and I'm telling you of things that I know from anonymous sources at the border that are direct right now that has taken place within the last several months, of which they have already confirmed 8, possibly 9, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or Hamas known and declared established terrorists by photograph ID, that they are now in the United States of America at large because they captured and released them by the orders of Joe Biden, who, if any of these now emerge, of which you see, you don't see about this in the public. There's nothing on the news about this. There's been, they claim, from what my understanding of anonymous sources is, that they don't want to let out who they are, who they know that they are, because then they'll know to go into hiding, as if they don't already freaking know, right? As if these terrorists who snuck in through Mexico with fake IDs and this and that and smuggled their way through to get released don't realize that at some point they're going to know they're the terrorists, and you don't think they're already in hiding right now. What do you think? You're freaking idiots. I'll tell you what, these people are freaking idiots. They need to release. They should release. They should put these pictures up right now, scatter them across the news. But they won't, because you know what? The Democrats are on board with this. As we progress forward by the evidence I'm going to show you, they're actually the ones who are manufacturing, aiding, and assisting in the terrorist attacks on Americans, and as well the very cause of all the civil and social upset we see in this nation taking place right now. They're the cause, the Democrats. So in truth, they don't want to stop it. They're actually the ones manufacturing it and causing it. So let's continue forward so we can get to those facts. These right here is an important map I want everybody to take a look at. I'm going to zoom in on this so you can get a clear shot at this, if it will let me. There we go. So as you can see, this map right here is change in adherent Muslim estimated 2000 to 2010. And I want you to just note the heavy areas, where the Muslims are coming in and where they're migrating to and where they're taking up residency in the United States as they come in. Just remember this map. It plays an important role as we go forward. I want to put it here, too, about this is a story right here that speaks about the thing of what going on with this here, about illegals who came in through the Mexican border. Right here, Mohammed Youssef Karan scored a visa by the bribing a Mexican diplomat in Beirut. Karani and another Middle Eastern then secured a Mexican guide who escorted them north. Karani entered America in a car trunk in February 2001. He eventually settled among Lebanese immigrants in Dearborn, Michigan. That's Ohan's, little Ohan, the ungrateful little no-good Muslim terrorist that hates America. The congresswoman, that's where she's at. She's out of Dearborn, Michigan, where he raised money for Hezbollah, okay? And Karani pleaded guilty in March 2005 to give material support to terrorists, okay? So just so these things are just here so you understand what I'm saying. There's evidence of fact that this has been going on. You don't hear about it on the news. Nobody's talking about it. And if anybody is talking about it or putting the evidence up like I did, back in 2000, when these things were going on, I was posting this stuff. Back then, Facebook wasn't deleting things. Neither was it back then. You also had, MySpace. And I was putting these on MySpace back then. MySpace, as we know, has been deleted. Facebook, I'm looking back, I can go back. I tried to find my old login information back in that time with the first Facebook things, and I found that, they have gone through and filtered and cleaned all that out. They have literally, you can't tell me Facebook, right now YouTube has not been interfering with my videos. And the reason I think is because if they review my videos and they review the facts, they realize I'm speaking the truth and the facts. And I think somewhere in it that the guy on YouTube that owns YouTube is a little bit more observant to, well, the guy's telling the truth. You can't really do nothing about it. He's waiting for me to slip up, I imagine. Then they'll go ahead and delete my account. But I'm not planning on slipping up. I'll keep things to the fact and the truth. But it's pretty clear Facebook is aiding and complicit with the totalitarian Islamic regimes and known and declared established enemies of the United States and the American people, in aiding and assisting them in covering up and hiding the trail of their terrorist attacks and plans on the American people. This is disgraceful. Mark Zuckerberg should be tried for this on all accounts, because I'm sorry, the evidence is starting to stack up that Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and his whole organization is aiding and assisting Islamic terrorists in their attack on the United States of America and the American people. And he's aiding and assisting and helping them cover up and hide the evidence of fact that would disclose to the American people the threat that it really poses to us. And Facebook is doing all possible, it is clear, to aid and assist them in hiding those facts. And I don't care what anybody says, it's becoming self-evident. But like I said right here, this guy here was a green card holder from Saudi Arabia who had lived for many years in Brooklyn and South Florida. Warren Ritchie explained in his exceptional article on this topic in January 5th, 2017, Christian Science Monitor, just before the September 11th attacks, Shekarama vanished. Okay, so I'm telling you, when you realize the people we're talking about and their ties to like I say right here, the ties that are to Al Qaeda, ISIS, that were recently to the guy Baghdadi, okay, the very Iran, okay, these people are, and then 9/11, the 9/11, the 2003 waterboarding of Al Qaeda 9/11 mastermind, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, yielded Sharek's name. American diplomats. See, so understand, this is what I'm saying. This is how far it goes back. It goes back all the way to the 2003, right after the 9/11 attacks. You know what I'm saying? So understand, these names are people who are relevant and have been relevant for now over a decade, involved in the terrorist attacks on the American people in the United States of America. But anyway, this right here is something I want to go back to, because now we're on a subject about with, Joe Biden wanting to have his attack on executive orders for gun laws, right? We got Joe Biden now with the Second Amendment attack, the Democrat Second Amendment attack. So this is where we're at again. We're looking at this right here. I just want to say, this is something real quick I want to touch on. When we go back in before the 1970s, right, 1980s, guns were a common practice played. When I was a younger kid, like we talk about this David Hodge, a little soft-head liberal, no good little punk, who, the horrors he had. Well, let me tell you something. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey as a little kid, and everybody carried a gun. Everybody had a handgun, and it was not uncommon. I mean, there wasn't many places you could go back in the 70s and not see people in the back window of their cars with their rifles up in the back window. It was a common practice. It was common practice to be standing anywhere in a candy store or what have you, and a guy standing there with a gun. And you know what? As a kid, I didn't mind that at all, because I knew walking around the neighborhood, if I knew and I knew the people who carried a gun, and I felt safe because I knew most guys who were going to do an armed robbery aren't going to do it in an area where they know everybody's carrying a gun. They don't know, because they're outgunned. They don't do that. They'll go to rob a store in an area, like when you look even at history, if you do a little research on history, like with Bonnie and Clyde, going back to the 1920s or whatever it was with Bonnie and Clyde, you'll look back and you'll see, I remember reading a thing about them with Bonnie and Clyde, the ones prior to them being taken down by the FBI, and how the FBI located them. I'm just going off memory here. It's not verbatim to what was said, but you get the gist of it, and you can do your own due diligence research on it. You'll find out it's the truth. The FBI was linked onto this by a reporter in a small town who actually got to do a live interview with Bonnie and Clyde. He got to talk to them after they just got done doing a heist on a bank in a small town. And in this interview where he got to speak with them, he asked them, how do they pick the places that, these banks? Do they have a method, or is it just random, or is it just as they need money kind of thing? And Bonnie and Clyde both informed the reporter guy that they'll go in and they'll what they say it was, they scope a town out. I guess you could say scope it. That wasn't a word they used. I remember in the article it was something else. It'll come to me as I'm talking probably. But they scoped out the town, and when they realized that, like, the people, or mostly they don't carry guns, they count on the cops to have the guns to protect them, and there might even be only like one armed guard in the bank, an easy outtake, for them, and that they don't see anybody walking around with a sidearm or a gun, and they notice none of the cars have they feel a lot more emboldened then in that town to do the bank robbery. But if they pull into a town where it's like everybody's sidearm carrying, and they notice the cars all got rifles up in it, and the guy in the bank, the guard there, he's got a gun, but everybody coming and going in the bank's got a gun too, they're not going to try and rob that bank. You see, and this is the way it used to be. These right here, what I'm showing you on the screen, are articles and ads that were ran like Sears Magazine, Consumers Distributors, some of the mail order catalog things back in that time, service merchandise, these catalog magazines. They used to sell guns all the time through the mail. It was also very commonplace for shooting clubs at the schools. It was not uncommon to see kids coming and going out of the school with their rifle bags, carrying their rifles. Out in the parking lots of the high schools, it was not uncommon to see many of the students' cars with their rifle racks with a rifle sitting in it in the parking lot of the schools. And you never had these mass shooting problems or these issues with gun violence like you do today. The reason being because then we educated the kids about the Second Amendment. We educated them about the militia of the United States and our Constitution, and how it's a right that's there to maintain our liberty, our freedom, and our morals and values as American people, and protect ourselves against that of foreign totalitarian ideologies that would love to overthrow or attack America. We were the front line, we the people. And the Second Amendment guarantees we the people are the largest armed militia in the world. That's why no one up until 1993 has attacked America on our own home ground. But thanks to the Democrats now, we do have emboldened foreign interests because, hey, the Democrats are allowing their platform to be used for these foreign totalitarian Islamic terrorists to be able to come right into our country to kill Americans. And that's what they're doing. But as we go forward here, we want to wonder, like, where do we see it? And that's what I'm saying. Where do we see this spike taking place? Well, we see it happening in 1986, 1985. And I have a personal experience with this as well. When I was a young kid, around like 8 years old, was when I got my first handgun. My brother Bill, my oldest brother, gave me that gun. And I remember him and his friend Brown, they taught me how to shoot that gun using blanks. Which luckily, is a story that they did, because I might have shot both of them had it not been blanks. But the blanks were so I could get the feel of shooting that little 32. It was a little handgun 32. I could get the feel of shooting that gun, like the whole response, without actually having a threat from a bullet in it. I had blanks in there. And then once I was able to control the gun, my brother got me the real bullets, and I could shoot little beer bottles in the alleyway with it and practice and get my aim down with it. And I got pretty good with that gun. I carried that gun for a long time, all the way up until I was 21 years old. I had that gun. And but anyway, that's what I'm saying too. I wasn't the only kid. There was a lot of kids in the city carried guns. A lot of men carried guns. I remember Harry, the beat cop. He used to have his gun, but also I can remember many times Harry standing out front, and he would show his 38. He had the 38 long nose revolver, and a lot of times you'd have a lot of the guys, they'd take out their 38 snub nose, or some of them would have a 45. And when they came out with the new semi-automatic clip kind of guns, oh boy, did they become popular, and everybody be showing them off. And I can remember the cops and the people standing comparing guns with each other on the sidewalk like it was common everyday thing. And this is what the posterity, the youth, the kids today don't understand. That's the way it was in the 70s, right up into the 80s. And it was in the 1980s that the Democrats the Democrats started pushing for this. And why? There's good reason for it. Why? As I've said in other videos, and if you watch my videos, you know about this, I mentioned about the time with Australia. Australia being one of the closest allies to the American people, and one that had a near verbatim constitution as the United States. In the 1980s, it was the Democrats pushed from a foreign interest position to disarm to disarm Australia. And it was over one mass shooting that they were able to push the legislation through in Australia to get them to do the buyback and disarm the Australian people, of which they tried to claim was a benefit. Of which, in truth, by world statistics and records right now, we know no. In fact, robberies increased, homicides by criminals increased on innocent people who now had no way to defend themselves. It was kind of like Australia was put in a position of what the Iranian people were in 1979 when the Islamic Muslims invaded. They had no Second Amendment, a way to protect themselves, and that's why the Muslims so easily came in and were able to overthrow their country, and now they're a total totalitarian Islamic state who are the enemies of America, which prior to 1979, Iran was known as Mini America and was our biggest ally in the East at that time. But how things change when you allow Democrats' influence to go ahead and have an effect on the world and that of our allies. It becomes pretty self-evident to anybody who follows the history. But as we see here, this is one of the first public acts, 99-308, in May of 1986. Now, the reason I mention that, because if we look here, this is a chart. In this chart, homicides by weapon types, handguns, it has other guns, knives, other methods, blunt objects, what have you. Now, as you're looking here, you realize that most other objects and things stayed flatlined and actually decreased. But you have these large swings in handguns, because with the Democrats and their legalizing legislation attack on the Second Amendment has been mostly focused at handguns. And as you see here, 1986, where you have them enacting these gun legislative laws, and what these gun legislative laws actually in effect do is they restrict innocent, law-abiding Americans from being able to protect themselves from criminals. You see, understand, criminals don't give a damn what the law says. That's why they're criminals. You could have all the laws you want. You could literally have 1,000 laws that say, no, you can't have a gun, no, and a criminal will have a gun. Because you know what? That's why he's a criminal. He don't give a damn about the law. And all these laws do is they place the innocent, law-abiding citizen at the disadvantage to the criminal, and the criminal knows it. Just like that Bonnie and Clyde thing I told you. The criminal knows that if the law says you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't have that, but he don't follow the law, the criminal. He don't care. He has silencers, he has the handguns, he could have fully automatic guns, because he don't give a damn what the law says. The criminal don't care. He has military M16s, not AR-15s. He has M16s. He probably has full automatic M16, because he don't give a damn that the law says he can't have it, because he's a criminal. He don't care about the law. He has little Uzis, and like we see in Chicago, these stud kids walking around, they got little handheld, fully automatic Uzis. And the law says it's outlawed. You can't have that, but yet they have it, because you know what? Criminals don't follow the law. My mom used to say when I was younger, she used to say, laws are made for criminals, not honest people. And I get that now. I get it. It didn't seem to make sense to me as a kid, but I get it now. She's right, because criminals, they utilize the law because they know honest, law-abiding citizens will follow it. When they can see it to their advantage, and like this situation, where the law strips the honest, law-abiding American of the right to protect themselves, the criminal's like, hey, they got no way to protect us. I'm the big man on the block now because I don't give a damn about the law, and the criminal got the gun. He don't care. He don't care. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do against that? And they got all the guns. They don't care. What you ain't allowed to have, they have, because they don't follow the law. That's the way it goes. And as you can see here, when they started implementing these gun regulations, the Democrats, this is where we start to see this spike. You see that spike right there? You see that little mouse moving? You see that little hand moving up there? Right? You see it right here. It goes whoop. It starts going whoop. You see it way up. Then there's this stabilization to it. The funny thing about it is, which I'm not going to go because it take a lot longer, but if you look at the stabilization to it, you see where many states had undone the laws because they realized that the crime rates were going up in their states because they were depriving innocent, law-abiding people of the right to be able to defend themselves. And they've seen a rise in, like in Australia, Australia's seen that massive rise in burglaries, house invasions, home intrusions, and pretty much street robberies by handgun. A big, massive increase in that because, like I said, criminals don't follow law. So then they allowed the people to, again, so it actually levels back off to where it was again. But not in all places. That's the funny thing, not in all places. And that's what we're going to take a look at. White House confirms Biden will sign gun control executive order again. So we're looking at this, right? 31 states now that prior, since 1986, all were taking some kind of part in this by pressure from government and the federal levels. But then a lot of them recanted back out and they pulled back. We've got 31 states right now that do not require a license or even a permit to carry a gun. They're fully Second Amendment compliant. They don't do anything to infringe the Second Amendment. And you know, it's a funny thing about it is, you know, you have controversy stories on it, but the truth of facts with the FBI and actual statistics and what you got to watch. Because if you look at some of those reports coming out of the government doesn't like to admit when they're wrong. So they doctor and lie like crazy, and then they get caught, and there's administrative re-reviews of their review that actually, you know, they have to recanter, they call it. They have to recanter because the facts were tainted or that by prejudice of trying to defend the government itself and are to hide what idiots they are, okay? But the truth is that the 31 states that don't require a license and are permitting have, in the areas where most are open carrying and it's known they have the lowest crime rates in the country. This is a fact, people. It's a fact. Now, as we look here, rate of firearm suicides after Australian gun buyback program. This is what I'm going to show you right here. This is what I'm talking about, the recanting. Now, you see here, they show this drastic decline here from 1986 down to 2006, right, in suicides. But here's the thing they don't tell you. And then, too, I just want to point out, too, most of the gun crimes here up till 2017 with suicide accounts, 60% of all violent crimes outside of, believe it or not, Democratic areas, gun-related violence is only related 60% to suicides. It's not actual like gun violence, terrorist violence, domestic violence, what have you. It's suicide. So I just wanted to make that point because we were talking about the suicide prior right here to the Australia decline. And then I want to go forward right here to this. Or am I missing it? Okay, and okay, so now I know where I'm at. Okay, so we were looking at the Australia thing, we'll get back to that, but we're on the suicide thing. Now, this map depicts the most highest rates of suicide here. And again, these maps, the shading and the coloring is very important. I spent quite a bit of time in trying to pull these out. This is from 2012 to 2016, I believe it's yeah, right up there. You can see 2012, 2016 averaging. And I try to get them so I could see and do layovers with these here. Because then as we move, okay, suicide rates. Now, okay, I had this a little bit broken up. But see, this is now back to the suicide rate in Australia from actually going in from 1990 forward. Suicide rates are back at pre-1996 levels, you see. So, like I said, they went right back. You know, it's a false narrative by the government in an attempt to hide the truth so that they don't look like the idiots they are for what they did. But like I say, now this is the important map too. There have been more than 2,500 mass shootings since the Sandy Hook shooting. Okay, so this takes place here, goes back from December 2012. Okay, and on here we have these dots. These areas represent the districts across the United States of the most heavily affected in mass shootings and gun violence. Now, it's important, like I say, for these maps, for everybody to pay attention to these maps, because there's a method to my madness with this. When you see this map here, you see these areas, right? We're going to step a little bit forward here. This right here is the presidential electoral map of the districts by political party. The blue represents the Democrat. The red represents the Republican. So I want you to look at the Democratic districts here on this map. Let me get this bigger so you can see it. I want to make sure everybody sees this clearly. This map represents the Democratic and Republican districts by red and blue. You see it? Now, if we go back here, this is where you have the mass shootings and gun violence within the districts across the United States of America. You see this? See this right here? And then go to that next map. See it right here? Look at that. Look at the blue. All these districts. See the blue? See all the blue? That's the Democratic areas, right? And then here, look at the blue is the same areas where all the gun violence is taking place. You notice like these big void areas here, like over here in Texas. That's, if you look at the map here, you see that's all Republican. It's only in these blue areas in Texas. These blue areas in Texas, you see it? The blue areas, like here, it actually colors it more in depth. I did a little bit more with this map, a little bit more in depth. It's deeper to see it. And then when you come back here, look, you see what I'm saying? You can see it. You can see it. The heavy gun violence and the mass shootings take place in Democratic-controlled districts, not Republican. The Democrats are the majority of the cause of gun violence. And this is true when you look at places like California, Chicago, Milwaukee, Pennsylvania, Camden, New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, what have you. As you can see, these are very heavy shaded areas right here on this map. And I know, I grew up in Newark, I'm telling you, I know. And when you see these things, you realize these are the areas that are controlled by the Democrats. See it? Look at it. You can't miss it. And my point is this, poverty as well. When you're looking at the Democratic areas, here, where the Democrats are, and you're looking at the areas of gun violence, and then you're looking at poverty, there's a coalition. The Democratic districts as well make up the majority of the nation's poverty-stricken areas. They also make up the majority, like here, we're going to go here. This is one where it shows the 2016 election map, and the government's released crime map of 2013. So look at the overlay here. This is where I'm giving you the comparison, because this map here takes into consideration the gun violence, the domestic violence, the crime, the burglaries, this, that, and everything, and it conglomerates them all and puts it into a color-coded pattern of the United States within the districts by political party association. And this is amazing when you look at this map, because as you can see right here, this is the top map on this picture here represents that of the red is the Republican-controlled districts and counties across this nation, and the blue is the Democratic-controlled counties and districts across our nation. You see, red represents on this map, it's been color-coded where the low crime rates are in red and the high crime rates are in blue, so that we can match up to the same as what we have up here in the electoral map between Republicans and Democrats. And now what do you notice on that map? You notice that the red, where the low crime is, matches the red of the Republican districts and counties across the country of our United States. The majority of the nation in the Republican-controlled districts across our country don't have these high crime rates. It's the Democratic districts. And look at the comparison here. You could literally overlay the map, and they're almost an identical match. I mean, just look at it. And what you realize, like, look at here, all these little blue counties in here. You know, you see it, I'm pretty sure. I hope you can see that. These are the Democratic counties within each, like, state that are Democratic controlled. And then when you look down here at the crime, you see that, and this is the way it goes. You see, and what my point is that the Democrats are the ones always complaining about, you know, got to do something about poverty, got to do something about gun violence, got to do something about domestic violence, got to do something about racism, got to do something about the riots and the looting. That's what's coming next. Let's take a look here. Maps of protests across the United States. This again. If you were to now I couldn't get one that was done in red and blue. I tried. I could only get it in this way here. But the overlay of this right here, this is the National Guard activated, is in the states where the National Guard had to be activated is in the beige. Site of protest is in the blue. All of these protests, and this is what causes the issues, you see, because I got to tell you too, the majority of Republicans are business-minded, wise people, not so, you know, they're educated, but they're educated to the sense that most Republicans, true American Republicans of entrepreneurship, understand that education and degrees are just the degrees of knowledge. Until you know how to apply it, you don't have wisdom. But you need wisdom to actually do something real with knowledge, your educated degrees of understanding and learning. And, you know, but now that's what I'm saying. There are many smart, wise business people as Republicans, and out of them, the majority are cowardly people. They're not hand-to-hand combating, fighting kind of people. They're very timid and scared people, and the Democrats know this. And when you have this much rioting, looting going on and things like this with the crime with the Democratic parties, and the Democratic parties, we see what they do, like Maxine Waters telling them, you go out in those restaurants, you find them, and you let them know. You remember her doing her little famous spiel where she was ordering the Democrats, poverty-stricken ghetto people to go attack the wealthy and well-off-to-do Republicans as they're out and about in their social societies. And we've seen the bleed over, like here in Florida, where you had the people coming out of the ghetto Democratic-controlled area and coming into the nicer neighborhoods and busting down gates and going through and terrorizing the middle-class and upper-class Republicans in those communities. We've seen it happen, and those people are cowards. Luckily, though, we had the one on the news. They weren't cowards. They came out with their guns ready to shoot people if they came on their property. And they were clarified in that because, well, it turns out, too, one of them was a lawyer. So I guess, like they say, those people are in a different class than the rest of us. But anyway, as we move forward here, we can see the Democrats' road to victory in 2020. This, again, is another map, a very clear map that shows this is the blue is where the Democrats are, the red is where the Republicans are. So the red is controlled by the Democrats. And like I say, when we look at that and we look at this right here, this is the crime map. Look at that crime map. Look at that Republican-Democratic map. Look at that crime map. See that bottom one's a crime map? And then look, it's you can't deny it, people. The problem in America is the Democrats. These people, and they've been the problem for, I say it in all my videos. If you've been following my history videos, most of my history videos are on the ideology of the enemies within, who I call the enemies within, the Democrats. And the Democrats have been the enemies within since the founding of this nation. And if you watch my history videos, you get a clear understanding of that. And that's what I'm saying. Like I say, you can go here, I have that channel, you can watch them. But the clear and self-evident thing of it is that what we have to come to realization is that the Democrats right now are literally annihilated the southern border. They're letting people pour in like crazy. We have terrorists coming in across this border. Like I say, anonymous sources have informed me that I know are trustworthy sources that we have already captured and unknowingly captured known and declared terrorists and released them into American society, not knowing that they were terrorists because they had fake ID, but they're afterward a deeper indulgence into who these men were because they raised red flag by their pictures and their accents. There was question about them being Mexican or what have you because they had fake IDs and fake paperwork and what have you. Turns out they weren't Mexicans. They weren't asylum seekers. Or they were actually ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hamas-related Muslim terrorists, okay, that are now 9 of them, I believe it is. 9 of them are in America right now, at large, and no one knows where they're at. So, just so we should all be aware, because like I say, we do see now, like we see here, we have Muslims again rising up and doing mass shootings and killing people in America. So, and the Democrats are responsible for this because they're the ones behind it. Harris and Biden are the ones behind this. And now they want to take all the guns away from all the people. So that's the other thing about this map. When you look at this map, all the red, like here, let's just go back here and look at the criminal map. Let me find here we go. So we have the electoral map up here of Republicans, Democrats down here. We have the low crime rates, high crime rates. You see that, right? So all these people in the red low crime rates, they want to take their guns away so that all the criminals in these little blue areas can come into those red areas and not have to worry about anybody being able to protect themselves. These people in these Democratic parties are disgraceful, no good, disgusting, treasonous scumbag traitors to this country. And I'm telling you right now, we the American people need to wake up and face the reality that if we don't do something to stop this, if we continue to allow this shit show that's going on, because right now it's pretty clear and self-evident we're a banana republic. And I'm going to end with this real quick, that, in the beginning I was very upset with Donald Trump, and I still, in a way, am. I still don't understand. I'm still not buying the spiel I'm hearing from anonymous sources in Washington and the National Guard and our military heads, people involved or what have you, that I'm hearing from people active with the National Guard and militias or whatever across the country talking about that. Prior to Donald Trump, we were a banana republic as well. We just weren't aware of it, and that they would have been able to win it for Hillary had they really understood how much support Donald Trump had. They really didn't think so, that he had such great support. So even with their ability to tip the scales, they didn't tip them high enough. That's why Trump won. Well, okay. And that supposedly Trump in the end here realized how many complicit rhinos, Republicans, because really the Republican establishment as well. I see so many people online, and I know a lot of people are going to give me gruff about this, with Ted Cruz, and you see all these Republicans like Ted Cruz and whatever. Now that little Marguerite Green, I like her. You know why? Because she's an everyday average American. Now in the midterms coming up and all elections forward, but it really doesn't matter. We can't, because they're prepared for it. And like I said, we're a banana republic, and they have the ability to control the elections. We the people really have no say. So I don't know if that's possible, because I said this in the last one and nobody did it. Now I realize why. Not in the last one so much with Trump, but the one that Trump won. We didn't really take much of the House and the Senate. And it was pretty clear that the support for Republicans was as great as it was for Donald Trump, but yet the House and the Senate were stacked in a way that the Democrats were able to maintain control. And then in the next election of 2020, it was pretty clear, not only did they, because we've seen the corruption even after the Joe Biden administration, this so-called guy who took a world record. That's the other thing. There's your Democratic, that's the big blue wave. The big blue wave right there. My son put up a meme on that. I have it on my Facebook right here. The big blue wave. You see it? The big blue wave right here. There's the big blue wave of the Democratic win of the most votes ever for a president in American history. Right there. It's just amazing how idiot we are that they. And I know I'm not an idiot. I'm not buying the crap, but it's pretty clear a lot of people are. They're just stupid people. What can you do? But anyway, right now we have a lot of the world's totalitarian Islamic Muslims looking at this nation as very weak. They're actually, too, not only them, China. We have many foreign totalitarian regimes, Iran and what have you, working with China and the Islamic Muslims, looking at America and realizing the one scary thing for all Americans, that if in America, even though we're the largest armed nation in the world, we have the largest armed militia in the world, in truth, our government is a Mickey Mouse kangaroo government right now. It's a joke. It's a goddamn disgraceful joke. And it's not just a joke at the federal level. It's a joke over the majority of that at the state levels. Most of the state, like thank God I'm in Florida, we have somewhat of a real governor who is actually trying to do real American things and keep Florida American. We have others that are small little representatives in Congress, people like little Marguerite Green, who is trying, even though in Georgia is controlled by a rhino scumbag. That little girl, she's trying to keep Georgia American, and she's doing all she can. And you know what? She's getting very little support, that little Marguerite Green, from that of other Republicans. What I'm trying to say to you, understand the corruption. The Republicans sit back on their lazy, no-good asses, because half of them are nothing but a bunch of educated idiot attorneys who failed and couldn't get a land up position with a large law firm, and they didn't have the ability, the guts, and the grind to go out and entrepreneurship to start their own practice. So their only alternative was to run for elected office. And I'm sorry to say, Ted Cruz is one of them. Run for elected office to take that high-paid welfare as an elected official, and just go out there and tell people what they want to hear and play the puppet role of letting people, tell them what they want to hear. And I'm sorry, a lot of people say, oh, but Ted Cruz is a good guy. I'm sorry, Ted Cruz, you know what? With the knowledge he's got and the wisdom he's got of the Constitution of the United States of America, and knowing that when he was running for president, he was a citizen of Canada, still had a Canadian, and he still has, he only has a Canadian birth certificate, knows he wasn't born in America, knows he shouldn't have been in that election, knows that he was, by his mother, had right to be a naturalized citizen, but not a natural-born citizen. And he should have never been running, because the Constitution makes clear only a natural-born citizen can run for president. And he knew that. That's why he dropped out when Donald Trump raised that issue. He knew that. And to me, that was knowingly playing dirty ball. And I'm sorry, you can't excuse knowingly playing dirty ball with the Constitution and then claim yourself to be an American constitutionalist. All Ted Cruz is right now is a worthless goddamn loser who tells the American people what they want to hear, plays the role to the American people of what they want to hear to keep his high-paid elected position, because if it wasn't for that elected position, Ted Cruz wouldn't qualify to scrap grease off a goddamn dumpster behind McDonald's. And that's the hard facts people need to wake up to and realize. Ted Cruz ain't done shit for nobody. Half of the majority of these talking heads like Ted Cruz of the Republican Party, they talk, they ain't done shit for nobody. Because here's my question I would like to ask. When you have all these Democrats putting all this legislation forward, I want to know, where are the Republicans putting the alternate legislation forward?
Where are the Republicans, legislators pushing their agenda to protect everybody's rights? I hear nothing but Democrats passing, Democrats doing, I don't hear nothing about Republicans doing shit. But I do hear from little Marjorie Greene how the majority of Republicans don't even vote, don't even come to the House or the Senate to vote, don't even take an interest in anything, and that's why the Democrats are dominating, because they know that most of the Republicans are nothing but ass-sitter, worthless, lazy pieces of shit that ain't doing nothing for nobody but collecting that high-paid welfare check as high-paid elected officials doing shit. It's disgraceful. But with that, I'm going to leave off, and I'm going to leave this off. Like I say, I just wanted to get on here and touch base real quick on about, Joe Biden's Second Amendment attack taking place, the Muslim killing people, the known facts about what's going on the border, and what the facts of evidence show in relation to crime, domestic violence, gun violence, all of these issues with mass shootings, riots, looting. It all takes place within Democratic-controlled cities, districts, and counties. These Democrats are the ones who are manufacturing the very issues and problems for our society, including all the racism and everything. It's all being manufactured by the Democrats within their Democratic-controlled districts, cities, towns, counties, and states that they dominate. They're manufacturing the problem. Then they're presenting themselves as the solution to the very problem they created. They're creating these problems. And these areas, too, when you look, these are the lowest educated in the nation as well. I have other maps on that. I should have brought that map up because when you look, the lowest educated, the highest rate of illiteracy, all fall within the same color patterns as this right here. The Democrats keep the society of which they control dumbed down, uneducated, unaware, stricken in poverty with low economical advantages for anybody there. High crime rate, high drug rate, high broken family rates, fatherless homes like you wouldn't believe, and criminal activity through the roof, the highest of criminal in the nation, some in the world. There's some counties under Democratic control, like Chicago has higher crime rates under Democratic areas than that of some nations in the goddamn world. It's just ridiculous. But, like I say, this is what I want to come on and say. This is what I want to come on and show. And I'll include links as well, and I'm sure I don't really even have to. I'm sure from what I'm saying in here and what you're seeing, you can do your own due diligence and your own search on these things. And I would say to anybody, if you think anything I'm saying is not true, prove it. Just prove it. There's a comment box below. You have a right to comment behind it. I won't delete anybody's comments. If you want to debate it, I'll talk about it. And I don't see many people coming in on the opposition to things I'm saying. And if you'll notice, too, you will not find disclosures on any of my videos because there's nothing like these fact checkers, these so-called fact checkers. Well, you know what? You don't see any fact checks on my videos because, you know what? If they're fact checking, you see, the Democrats like to say what Joe Biden said. They choose truth over facts. Now, in their version, the truth is what they tell people, even though it's a lie. They just want people to believe their lies. They say they choose truth over facts because they don't want the posterity that they control, or the ghetto-ridden, uneducated people in the ghettos they control, of these Democratic-controlled, rundown, criminal-infested, freaking drug-infested, crime-infested ghettos that these Democrats establish and manufacture. They don't want them looking at the facts because if they look at the facts, they're going to realize the Democrats are lying to them. But the one thing with the fact checkers is normally when they do their fact check, they can find something to dispute whatever's being said. There's something somewhere where they could say, even it's ridiculous. But I make sure to show the facts as what they are. And as you look here, you'll find most of these maps right here are tied to that of maps and statistics and reports. Like these maps here, if they try to discredit these, I have the FBI reports that back these maps up and where these maps were taken from. Okay? And they know it. If they do their due diligence, they're going to realize, well, you can't touch that because, you know what? Multiple departments. And the reason I pick certain years is because certain of those years were non-prejudice years and where the reports were actually questioning prior reports, that they actually even did what you call counter reports that showed that prior statistical reports, like the fallacies of Australia's suicide rate dropping and crime rate dropping, under non-prejudice administrative positions of that of independent investigations of which the authorities reviewed, considered, and concluded were accurate, including the FBI, the CIA, and secret intelligence and what have you of our United States government, could not deny these things, entered them into, and made them a part of the factual evidence of public record. So, if the fact checkers want to dispute that, well, you have at it. I'll bring all the facts you want to the table and make you look like the idiots you are, you bunch of idiots, because that's what these fact checkers all are from what I'm seeing. But anyway, that's what I want to say, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and you want to comment below. And for now, that's what I had to say. In my next video, we'll be picking up on history from 1900 forward, getting into the Woodrow Wilson era and World War I, and where the Democrats really rise up and show their true colors again, and the true evil of who they are since the time of the Civil War. So until then, I'll see you guys. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Thank you for watching my video. If you watched it all the way, if you comment, you take part in it below, you start a dialogue, I really appreciate it. That helps make people feel more comfortable, more people to talk about it. And like I say, these videos are making them for people to share them as much as you want, debate them as much as you want, spread them around as much as you want. That's what they're here for. Again, thank everybody for taking the time to watch my video. If you watch it to the end, I'll see you next time. Have a great weekend.